Alright, so just an update. Is probably like about a week later, and at this point, almost every time I move a few steps forward with this project, I take a whole bunch back. The last thing was when I let off was the engine was already in the car with the transmission, and then I found out that the space that the BRZ FA20s had for their starters to mount up, it is super different on the FA20 from a WRX. For they have it on the driver's side of the shore block. So I didn't know that. I never looked up that information. It wasn't until the transmission engine were already put back together and I was trying to put the starter in, and obviously it wouldn't go in. So it wasn't until then that I noticed, and then I had to pull the engine back out. And I pulled the transmission out with it because I had a couple ideas on how I can go about this. One would have been cutting up the transmission bell housing, where I can try to see if I can replicate this on the other side, which would have had its pros and cons. Or the second part would be cutting up this piece of the block. I figured I'll go over what are the kind of the pros and cons of each side of how I could attack this. So on the transmission bell housing, if I were to try to replicate this side for the starter on the opposite side, pro is I can always get another transmission for fairly cheap. Change the bell housing out wouldn't really be an issue, or just change the whole trans out wouldn't be an issue. The con side to that is pretty much getting rid of these ribs and all that, like all the strengthening points of the bell housing will pretty much make the transmission to where it's like super weak, or at least the bell housing to where it's super weak. So throwing any power to it and any hard driving will probably just break and then destroying the bell housing even more. Pros and cons on cutting up the block is obviously I can try that once I cut it up, I can, put the starter in the right mounting position. I don't have to worry about extending the starter harness. I can have everything in its factory location, which is a pro. The con will be is just the fact that I'm cutting into a block. Like, let's say down the road, I wanted to resell this motor as a full running motor because I pulled the trigger on swapping the engine into the BRZ. Then obviously, this right here can be one of those things where it's kind of like a make or break for some people. So that's just one of those things. Had I put the transmission on and went the transmission route and cut up this area right here, I can still use the starter. Instead of being in the position where it goes like this, I will have to turn it upside down. And pretty much make it like right there with about 2 inches of space, because about 2 inches is about the space that it has between the block and the inside of the starter anyways, because that's the space of the transmission. So let's say it was like right there. I can extend the wires, still make the connection, still make it work. But again, I go into the chance of ruining the integrity and the strength of the bell housing and just chasing the rabbit down the hole on that one. So in this case, what I did here, I got some outside advice too from a buddy, my buddy Andy, and he pretty much saw how the block is, and he's like, yeah, you'll definitely be better off just cutting the block. So if you see this line that goes down here, and then the ones that kind of curve up here, I'm gonna start with this lower line here, work my way in, then work my way up this first initial line, then come here and remove this, essentially this chunk right here with the grinder. And then what I can do after that is pretty much just try to like polish my way down in and up if need be. But with that one, it will pretty much be like take this initial cut out and then just kind of like work my way to these outer lines as I need to, which will involve me putting the transmission on a handful of times, trying to start on, see if it fits. If anything's kind of getting caught in the way, take it back off, keep polishing it until it hits these outer brims or whatever, these outer marks, and pretty much go from there. Now, this piece right here does mount on the top of the starter bolt, and then as you can see on, let me turn this engine around. As you can see, this is where the top of the starter will go, and this is where the second, the lower piece of the starter will go, of the bolt. It doesn't have that here. It would initially be like right here where this is at. So my plan of attack for that was gonna be, once the starter's on, is this part of the bell housing, what is it called, like a helix core or helicore or whatever it's called, inside the bell housing here, inside this hole, and pretty much just use a short bolt that can pretty much still make the connection, make the pressure for the starter to be solid. All right, so current update. As you can see, we got a big chunk of it already taken off. And right here, you can kind of tell I stood true to my initial lines on where I said I was gonna grind first. Here I stood a little bit inside. On top, I came a little bit more at an angle, so it's a little bit more slanted downward. This one's pretty straight on. I was pretty much right on the line on this one right here. Actually, I was actually probably like a little bit more beneath it. But it still gives me this little chunk from here to this yellow line. I'm kind of cutting down, but if you can see my initial mark from when the starter was on, or the transmission was on, this line coming down in a slant, so I can pretty much just like take the grinder in a little bit of an angle and just kind of like knock that off, and that would be kind of almost perfect. But the top one, I can come up a little bit more and then follow the line more on the inside. But right here, what I'm gonna do is pretty much just like kind of smooth this piece out right here, smooth these edges out, and then try to see if I can put the transmission back on. And if I can put the transmission back on and have everything kind of fit, just kind of like one or two bolts holding it in place, and then grab the starter and see if I can put like the starter in here, because it's looking like it's knocking a little bit, like I might have to polish it some more. But with the transmission on and about the 2-inch gap that it's gonna need, this actually might be enough. Let's go ahead and get the transmission off the freaking sawhorse and pretty much just put it over here, mount it up, probably one or two bolts along with the guide rods out here, and see about having to probably shade this down a little bit more to give it a little bit more of a clearance. Hopefully by me taking off this section here, this piece hasn't lost too much strength to where picking up the engine becomes an issue. All right, so for anybody that was wondering, so far so good. This little section up here, where this pretty much bolts up to, is still strong enough to support the weight of the engine. I went ahead and mounted the transmission, and then I noticed that I still have like, well, I kind of separated already, but I still have like about a 1/2 inch that I still got to play with. Now that the initial bigger cuts are made, now it's kind of just like polish all some of this aluminum out of the way and see if we can get the spacing that we need. Now remember, I did draw my original markings from the inside of the starter, like here, here, and then down here. So as long as I can stay within those marks right there and try not to go too far past those, we should be in good shape. And then as far as back, we still got about another 1/2 inch as well of going towards the block. So we still got some shaving to do. We still got some cleaning up to do. And then every once in a while, I'll stop, throw the transmission back on, throw the starter, see how close we are. So therefore, I'm not attacking too much on the bottom when I need more on the top, or vice versa. Or maybe the top and bottom have clearance. Now it's just a matter of pushing this piece more back to give the clearance for the starter. This is what the hopefully finished product looks like. Everything's all smoothed out. All the edges are kind of like rounded out, so it's not all sharp or nothing. Here, I trimmed a little bit, not a lot. I'm hoping that should probably be enough. But as you can see, I still can go a little bit just straight back here, just grinding it more down. And then this part outside shouldn't really bother too much, so I'm leaving it as is. But yeah, this piece right here, if I need to, I can still grind this and kind of like push that little piece back in. But for the most part, I'm as in as I wanted to be. You can see the original yellow marking pretty much right there. It starts right here in the bottom, and it just follows the edge. And it just kind of curves around and kind of matches up with this upper marking. Next part right now is pretty much put the engine to the transmission again and see if the starter bolts up perfectly without having to do any more grinding, cutting, anything like that. So yeah, let's try it. Let's see if, bam. Well, there you have it, guys. The starter is flush, it's perfect. It has just the amount of clearance that it needs, so it's not hitting anything. Yeah, I am left with this giant hole, so I'm thinking I can probably like find a way to cover this, maybe. Try to make like a plate or whatever that can probably like cover this hole, and it could probably be something that someone that has experience with like TIG welding can probably just like either tag in place or do like a nice solid bead, close it all up. Kind of maybe make it go flush with the transmission, make it look as original as possible, and then strengthen this whole area up here again to where lifting the engine, even though it's not a concern right now, you know, it's just a better peace of mind I don't have to worry about later because I'm pretty much giving it all the strength back. As of right now, I think the plan is going to be is just go with putting like a little shorter bolt in here just to give it the strength it needs to kind of just, you know, yeah, do its job. Kind of recapping from the very beginning to now, when I picked up the short block, there was a couple of those like oil plugs that I had to buy and throw-ons, which is, you know, very simple. Not all engines that you buy might need those or whatever, but I needed them. I did go with Grinspe's 1.45 millimeter thick on head gaskets, and it gave the perfect clearance that it needed from the pistons not to be smacking the bottom of the heads. And then on top of that, I had to go ahead and grind down the corner of the block to get the starter to fit. As of right now, for this moment, this time right here, this should be enough to get the car running and driving under her own power again. However long I'm in Alaska, hopefully this engine lasts that duration. So when I do come back stateside, you know, I can go ahead with another project. Every swap has their challenges, man. I mean, this one just happened to have a little things that I never thought about. So to each his own. I hope you guys like the content of this video. I'm gonna end it right here. Thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one.